Hey, it's John and Mike, brew-use.com, and it is Jar of Destiny tasting time. This is Mike's choice, or what the jar gave him. It's
Mike's Destiny.
BJCP. 22A is the category. This is the American Double IPA. And we have a very special thing we're going to do. We're going to Mike in the garage right now to do his brewing. So, take it away, Mike.
Hey guys, it's Mike from brew-use.com. Today is the day to brew up my double IPA for the Jar of Destiny series. I'm in the messy garage. We're in the middle of the summer. Stuff is everywhere from doing activities all summer, but I'm going to try to squeeze in this brew day. Let me tell you what I got going. I've got 12 gallons of water that I'm going to prep with my mineral salts. The basic recipe is going to be 10 pounds of American two-row, 7 pounds of Pilsner malt, and 2 pounds of light Munich malt. The hops are going to be a blend of Columbus, Centennial, and Simcoe hops. We'll get more into that when we do the tasting video. But I'm going to weigh out the rest of my grain, crush it. I'm going to do my water adjustments. I got 12 gallons in the kettle ready to waiting for some mineral salts. Time to get started. Now that the grain is prepped and like I said, I got the water ready, let me tell you a little bit about my approach to the water in this beer and my mash approach. So like I said, I got 12 gallons of water. I start with spring water, mainly because spring water is easier to get. I was working with Aroma for a while, but I've started working with spring water because if you actually go pull down the mineral content of your local spring water source, if you can find it, it's really, most of the levels are super, super low. Or I encourage you to find a spring water that's got super low levels. It behaves almost like RO at that point in terms of building water back. The other thing too is it usually comes in larger format. So I can buy like 4 or 5 of these, depending on what I'm doing, instead of trying to walk out of the store with 12 to 15 1-gallon jugs. It's just annoying for me. So I like working with spring water. So let me tell you about the water and how I prep my water for a batch. So I'm fortunate I have a big 15-gallon kettle. So to that 12 gallons, I'm going to do 12 grams of gypsum, 4 grams of table salt, sodium chloride, 1.5 grams of magnesium sulfate, and 2 grams of calcium chloride. That's going to get me a 2-to-1 sulfate to chloride ratio. So this being a double IPA, I want to accentuate the sulfate just to give those hops a chance to be a little bit more biting, a little bit more present than beers that I normally brew that are a little more chloride heavy. So in the end, that's going to give me 78 ppms of calcium, 4 ppm of magnesium, 37 ppm of sodium, 164 ppm of sulfate, and 82 ppm of chloride. So I'm really going for that sulfite to chloride ratio balance. In the kettle too, I'll also add, Beersmith tells me I need 3 mils of lactic acid in the mash, and it's going to be about 6 gallons of strike water. So because this is 6 gallons in here, I'm going to go with 12 gallons in here. I'm just going to double that, and just to make my life easier, I'm going to go 6 mLs of lactic acid in the kettle as well in that water prep. I like being able to prep all the water at one time. I get the minerals added, I get the acid added. It's good to go, and I don't have to think about it when it comes time to sparge, because I'm usually running around a little bit, cleaning a fermenter, dealing with kids, or just trying to clean up this mess, which is my garage at the same time. So yeah. So what I do is I'm going to heat this up to close to strike water. I've also been experimenting a lot lately with underletting the grain. So you'll see me later. I'm going to add milled grain to the brew kettle first, to the mash tun. Then with my pump, and I'll set up the hoses, I'll run the water underneath. I find I actually get less dough balls, and I don't know why I haven't been doing that for 20-something years, but I just recently started playing with it, so that works. Mash regime. So I want to try to get this beer reasonably dry, really great attenuation. So the approach for me, I'm going to probably, because I can recirculate and do a direct fire mash tun, I'm going to probably shoot for about a 145, 144 in there, strike-in temperature, initial mash temperature, and I'm going to let that go for 30 or 40 minutes, and then I'll slowly ramp it up and try to stop somewhere in the 55 to 56 range to get some of that higher end mash chemistry going on. And then I'll definitely go to mash. I'll probably only do that for 10, 15 minutes. Then I'll ramp up to 168, 170 mash out. And then the other thing that I do too, which is a little bit different, is I'm doing a sort of a hybrid batch sparge. With the 6 gallons that's still in the kettle, I will run that on top of the mash. I'm not going to drain it first. I'm going to run that in there, and I will recirculate the whole thing until it's all really homogeneous. I find that on my system, 15-gallon kettle, a 15-gallon mash tun, sorry, second time I've done that, with a big false bottom, the full bottom, false bottom, I get that whole thing rolling with recirculation, and then I can check the gravity right there, and I know what the gravity of that wort's going to be no matter what, and run it off, and I'll collect as much as I need to get to my target original gravity, which for this beer is a little bit around 1075. That's their target original gravity. So I got to put the heat back on the kettle. I use propane, it's loud, so I had to turn it off for this. So right now I'm just going to wait for it to come up to temperature. Hey, okay, so I'm about to transfer from kettle, HLT, into the MLT. I got it right that time. So I'm going to transfer the water. The other thing I like about doing it this way is that I used to use buckets to measure volume and move water back and forth, but this has got 12 gallons in it, so I'll just watch this till I hit 6 gallons. Then I know I've got 6 gallons in the kettle. There's no great camera angle for me to show you how I do this, but I'm just going to open up the pump valve and slowly let the water move over. And be patient. I'll show you what's happening in there as soon as there's something that looks like it's happening. Okay? Cool. And don't forget, trusty mash paddle. All right, so mash is in. I actually miscalculated what I told you before, so I used 7 gallons for strike water to get me to 1.5 quarts per pound. That's what I've just settled in on over the years. I like it. You can see I stirred it a little bit, how loose it looked. So yeah, I feel pretty good. It's at about, the mash is at about 145, so it'll be perfect for a lot of low-end attenuation. Like I said, I'll probably give this 30-40 minutes. It's a bit long, really, but I'll give it 30-40 minutes, then I'll throw some heat on there and start to recirculate. You'll see me reconfigure the hoses so I can back on top. And that's where we're at. So hang in there. Oh, yeah. Another little detail I know you're going to ask in the comments. So I throw an old brewing towel and this old raggedy sleeping bag on top of it. You know, heat rises. And I found over the years, especially with just using stainless steel mash tun, that I can actually preserve most of the heat, even when I brew out here in the wintertime when it's 30 degrees, 32 degrees. I don't usually brew below freezing. So, you know, heat wants to rise. And so if you cover, just get the top really well insulated, I don't really lose that much around the outside. This being almost 20 pounds of mash, 7 gallons worth of liquor, there's a lot of thermal mass there. I'm not going to probably lose a whole lot during the mash. But even when it's cold out, this technique works really well for me without having to do a bunch of weird insulation on the kettle. Hey, a little change of strategy. It's been 40 minutes at the primary mash temp, which is about 145. I haven't really lost any temperature, which is cool. I took the remaining 5 gallons in the kettle and brought it to a boil, 212 degrees, brought it to a boil, and then underlet that into the main mash. That way I wouldn't have to change hoses around. I just didn't feel like screwing around with that stuff. So I underlet 5 gallons, almost 5 full gallons underneath of boiling mash, stir it, stir it, stir it. Now I'm sitting at about 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which is totally fine for me. So I'll get some of that high-end mash temp stuff, and I'm gonna let that sit for like 15, 20 minutes, and then I might put some heat on it and stir it and see if I can get it up to 168, but I don't like to spend a lot of time doing this stuff. So right now I feel really good about where I'm at. I'm gonna take a gravity reading at some point now that all the volume's in there. Whatever gravity I pull from there is the gravity of the original gravity for the boil, pre-boil gravity. So I'm gonna do that, and then we're gonna see what happens. Then I'll start transferring, and I'll show you with the camera what it looks like as it transfers into the kettle. All right, transfer complete. The kettle's full at about 9 gallons. I usually go to 8. I had to collect about 9 to make up for slightly less efficiency, it looks like, in the mash tun, but not a big deal. So now we're off to the races. It's 9 gallons, gonna start boiling. I'll boil it down to 6.5. It looks like a huge evaporation volume, I know, but it's a pretty big wide kettle. I'll just boil hard, we'll see what happens. Then I'll shoot some video of adding hops, but we'll talk about hops when we do the tasting video. So Stay tuned for that. Cheers.
All right, double IPA, let's get into it. So, as we probably know, you have all the information about the malts. Let's talk hops.
So the full recipe we down in the description box below. But you know, I've talked a little bit about the grain bill before and the water profile. But now it's all about the hops. So we're going to do that part of the tasting profile, because in this beer it's very hop forward, and the malt profile, that stuff should really sit in the back. So when I first designed this beer, I was sort of thinking West Coast IPA. But I feel like I missed the mark a little bit, and we'll see what you say about it. But so what I did is, I bittered for 60 minutes with 1 full ounce or 28 grams of Columbus, at about 16% alpha acid. And then what I did is I made a pseudo blend moving forward of an ounce of Centennial, an ounce of Columbus, and an ounce of Simcoe, all 28 grams apiece. So 3 ounces. That went in at 10 minutes left in the boil, and I used my hop spider for that because I didn't want to have a ton of carryover. I was trying to make a clean, bitter beer with hop flavor, but I didn't want a lot of that hop debris carrying over, sitting in my fermenter for a long time too. So I put that in my hop spider for 10 minutes, was those guys. Then the same blend again at Whirlpool before I chilled. So I chilled under 180, I let those 3 hops, so another 3 ounces of that blend, Columbus, Centennial, Simcoe, go in there. And then when I transferred it to the keg, I went to 2 ounces of Simcoe and 2 ounces of Centennial, no Columbus, for dry hop in the keg. And that dry hop cylinder is still in the keg. It's been conditioning in the keg for about a week and a half or so, maybe almost 2 weeks now. The beer is probably about 4 weeks old, a little bit less than that. It's been cold, it's been closed transfer and all that jazz. Just for note too, because I was sort of trying to go West Coast, I used Lallemand BRY 97.
Okay. Trying
to go for a clean fermentation, a really good aggressive fermentation. The starting gravity on this baby was 1080, and it finished at about 1014, so it's sitting at about 8.5, a little bit more percent.
A little bit of alcohol.
That's with the double IPA. I mean, that's what it really should be. So what do you think? Aroma, flavor,
well, let's start with
perception?
The appearance. Yeah, let's start with appearance. You know, I think you're hitting the mark with that, you know, dark gold color. I think that's what I was going to expect.
Yeah, I love the orange. I think that that's that Munich 1 coming through.
That's good. I mean, I think that nails it. You know, the clarity is not clear. It's you know, it is hazy, but I think that could be the age of the beer, but also, you know, you did dry hop a lot.
Yep.
I'm trying to now, in terms of aroma, it's not overwhelmingly like hitting the face hoppy, but it's present. I mean, it's not like I have to go searching for it.
Yep.
It's not like, I guess we're just used to cracking open a can and then being overwhelmed with hop aroma, right?
I agree. The aroma is not super jumping out at you, despite all that hopping and in the dry hopping in the keg too. So maybe it just needs more carbonation, so that there's more effervescence bringing it out to you. Like when I shake it, I get a little bit more, but it's still not overwhelming.
The first few sips of this, I thought it was, you know, hop forward, but balanced with the malts that you had put in there.
Yep.
Even though it was just American 2-row,
little pilsner,
and the Munich. I think the Munich plays nicely here.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's that you went with Munich. It's more of a malty than, say, a caramel. You know, like So that's
I think traditional, like not traditional, but at least Gen 1 of West Coast IPAs had a fair amount of a pretty heavy hand of caramel malt in them.
Yeah.
And I think we've also moved away from that a little bit. But I did want to put that Munich in there just to make sure I had a little bit of backbone. Again, I was expecting a stronger 60-minute bitterness addition.
Yep.
So I wanted to have a little bit of malt backbone there to adjust it. And this isn't exactly my style of beer to drink in quantity, let alone the 8.5%. So I was being cautious to try to hit the style the best I could, but still have something that was drinkable enough for me.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and that's what homebrewing is about, right?
Okay, so what do you think about how the hops present in the aroma? Are you looking for something a little more piney, or you're looking for something a little more citrusy?
Yeah.
What's your take?
I'm really surprised that the combination of Columbus, Centennial, and even the Simcoe for that matter, but the Columbus and Centennial, that there isn't more pine grapefruit, right? Which to me actually tells me that Simcoe is really using those two hops and propelling itself forward. Because for me, the aroma and the flavor profile is a really like, I get a lot of like orangey, tangerine, chewy fruit, right? I mean, it's just chewy. There's definitely a resinness on the end, which is sort of straddling. It's sort of getting to that West Coast thing, but I just don't have enough straight up IBUs in the front end to make it bitter. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it too.
if someone wanted to replicate this recipe at home, I would maybe bump that 60-minute Columbus up another half ounce, or even go for 2 full ounces. And just go for it if you like. If you want to revisit being a hop head, that's probably one way to do it. Yeah. What do you think about the flavor profile, like, of the hops?
I think that you touched upon some of the thoughts I had. Like, I was hoping to get more citrus notes. I think you're right about the orange. Like, it's not overtly orange, but like as it sits on my palate, that's sort of. I was hoping more grapefruit than orange, I guess, and it's like, and it's more of like. It's hints of orange, not like a straight up, like, we talk about like the zest of an orange or the pith of the orange. It's just kind of like more of a essence of the orange.
There's almost a little bit of like candied orange peel, and which doesn't have that pithiness. A little bit of that candied orange peel, maybe even like a little bit of candied pineapple or something. This is the first time I've really worked with Simcoe that I can really remember,
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I put it in here. I wanted to go something I was like Columbus. I haven't used Columbus in a long time, so it's like, Columbus is like a hop I do not want to taste. So that would be perfect in a double IPA. So I threw that in there, and then the Centennial for classic, that orange. Maybe I just got the right lot, because Bell's Two Hearted is all Centennial, but it's like really a special lot of Centennial that they pick. And maybe I just have a good enough lot here that's really pushing that orange, that really dark orange, almost blood orange type of flavor profile. I do really like the flavor profile.
I like it too, and I'm glad it's not as bitter as I was expecting it to be. Like I was really thinking like, okay, this is going to be not that crushable. It's going to be like, all right, I'm going to be sipping this, and then I'm going to be feeling it. In like,
I mean, for me, it does.
Ears here.
I think I missed the mark on it being a little bit more West Coast, but it certainly hits double IPA. It is a full hop resin experience in the mouth. It's coating in the mouth. There's a lot of fruit forwardness. There's a balance of that Munich malt in there, and there's a touch of enough bitterness there to sort of help balance that a little bit. And then the alcohol's there, right? I mean, you just half of this in, you're like, oh, this is an 8.5% beer. You're like, all right,
good.
So when the camera cuts, we're going to drink 4 more of these and just double check to make sure that the alcohol's there.
I'm sure it will be there. It's not going anywhere. All right, well, I still think this is a very good example of the style. I mean, if I were to give notes, I would try some Chinook. I love that hop. I think it's...
more resin?
Yeah, a little more resin, a little more
resin.
pine, a little more... Maybe, and then... Maybe throw. I know that you went Columbus and Centennial. I wonder if we just got some fresh Cascade.
Because I think our palates.
I know.
Having the amount of like Sierra Nevada we've drank, which is not double IPA, we know that, but that's what we expect when I think of more traditional. IPA hopping is grapefruit. American IPA to me is grapefruit.
It is.
Through and through, The rest of the hops are super fun, and I love playing with those. But to me, things like mango, grapefruit, even tangerine, orange, then you get into weird things like blueberry, green melon. To me, that's New England IPA, right? That's hazy IPA, right? But regular traditional IPA to me is like dank, resin, grapefruit, pine.
Got it. So when you compared this to style guidelines, did you match up IBUs? Did you match up color? Did you match up all the rest of the parameters.
Yeah, the rest of the parameters hit pretty close, except for like the actual achieved IBUs, like the what I would call the bittering IBUs. Let's forget the rest of that garbage. But those bittering IBUs, I think I went a little soft on. It's a little bit soft, just because I was, getting a little bit worried that it'd be too bitter for me, and I'd want to be able to drink it. You know. The other thing too is the hop spider. Like, I don't use it a ton because I usually don't brew with a lot of hop material. And I wonder if I would have just gotten more character if I let them free swim in the kettle. And I forgot, because I use a recirculating I recirculate for the chill. I forgot that what I used to do is put the hop spider in later when I put the chiller in, and then pump for recirculation into the spider and collect some of that material in the spider during chill, rather than so everybody could swim in the pool freely. Because when you have 6 ounces of hops in my spider, despite even the size of it, and so I was putting the spoon in there, just making sure this. But you can see everything's boiling, but in the spider, it's just like it's nice. Come on in. It's nice, So I don't know how much I got out of all those hops.
All right. Well, things that you learn.
So it's really a process technique thing at that point.
Well, just a preview for next week. Maybe I'll hit you up with some IBUs in my Kolsch. Oh, no. Maybe I shouldn't have given away too much. We'll figure it out. All right. Well, that is Jar of Destiny Phase 3, Beer 1, the Double IPA. Hopefully you enjoyed this program, and we'll continue it on next week when I bring my Kolsch, and then we'll do another choice from the Jar of Destiny to wrap up the month of September.
Sweet.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We do this kind of thing every single week for John and Mike, brew-news.com. Brew on!
Cheers!